Tonight, emergency response. The U.S. releasing 50 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to stem high gas prices. Plus, the latest on the Christmas parade tragedy in Wisconsin. Children still fighting for their lives.
There were just so many bodies in the road, and then I saw them start to pick them up, and they were little kids.
And NASA about to smash a spacecraft into an asteroid's moon. The planetary defense test that could one day defend Earth. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. A move to alleviate the pain at the pump. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder. The White House announcing today the U.S. will tap the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to try to drive down gas prices. This reserve meant for emergencies like natural disasters and issues of national security. And with energy and gas prices nearly double that of last year, Americans are feeling it this holiday season. The White House says the release will be undertaken in conjunction with other countries, including China.
Oil-producing countries and large companies have not ramped up the supply of oil quickly enough to meet the demand. And the smaller supply means higher prices globally for oil.
The Energy Department will release a total of 50 million barrels of oil, 32 million in the next few months that will be replenished in later years, and another 18 million barrels as part of a sale authorized by Congress. And here with us now is Stephen Skanke, Chief Investment Strategist at Keel Point. Stephen, welcome. Good to have you with us this evening. So we're seeing record high gas prices heading into the holidays. Today's average for a gallon of regular was $3.40. Just a year ago, it was $2.20, a $1.20 difference. On the part of the Biden administration, is releasing 50 million barrels of oil too much or too soon? Too much too soon or too little too late?
It sends a great signal, Jenna. There's been a shortage of oil and a shortage of petroleum generally. You know, the United States has been lucky to rebound 100% of where it was pre-COVID in its economic growth. So our GDP is back to where it was before our COVID shutdown. But what hasn't happened is the production of petroleum in the United States and around the world generally, even though our consumption is back to just about where it was before. So the additional oil coming out of the petroleum reserve, as you say, part of it in advance to be repaid later, and part of it being distributed as Congress permitted, will make a big difference, certainly psychologically, but even very importantly, just in building back up the depleted inventories, which today are about a half of what they have been over the last 5 years on average.
Yeah, we'll see if consumers feel it, you know, this Thanksgiving and Christmas. It could take more time than that. Former President Trump, in a statement, called this move an attack on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in order to artificially lower record high oil prices. Stephen, does he have a point? Your thoughts on that?
Well, the size of the petroleum reserve is 604 million, and as you pointed out earlier, this is done in conjunction with other countries around the world. There's about 4 billion in strategic petroleum reserves. So the impact on our reserve and the reserves of others is not significant. Second, it is an effort to bring down oil prices as production starts to catch back up. When we look at U.S. production, it's way below where we were pre-pandemic. But into 2022, our total petroleum production will be back above where it was in 2019. So if we think of this as sort of a bridging action to help reconcile this temporary imbalance between supply-demand, this is actually a very positive thing. And shouldn't be seen as an effort to manipulate oil prices as a strategic matter.
All right, Stephen Skanke with Keel Point. We have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, the fate of 3 white men on trial for the killing of an unarmed black man in Georgia is now in the hands of the jury. Travis McMichael, his father Gregory McMichael, and William Bryan, all accused of chasing down and murdering Ahmaud Arbery. Defense attorneys arguing the McMichaels were attempting a citizen's arrest when they set off after Arbery, thinking he was a burglar. The defense says the killing was self-defense after Arbery chose to fight and claiming it was legal under a citizen's arrest law at the time.
And so he's done what he thinks the law allows him to do.
But the prosecution says Arbery was targeted because of his race.
And they made their decision to attack Ahmaud Arbery in their driveways because he was a black man running down the street.
And prosecutors also say there was no evidence Arbery had committed crimes in that neighborhood. In Wisconsin, the driver who plowed his SUV into a Christmas parade, killing 5, made his first appearance in court today. Daryl Brooks, charged with 5 counts of intentional homicide. And he has an extensive rap sheet. Brooks is accused of running over the mother of his child just 20 days ago. He was released from jail just 2 days before the parade on a $1,000 bond. Investigators believe Brooks was fleeing from another crime when he drove into the Christmas parade. Meanwhile, the community of Waukesha is mourning, last night coming together for a prayer vigil.
We are parents, we are neighbors, we are hurting, we are angry, we are sad, we are confused. We are thankful. We are all in this together. We are Waukesha strong.
Tonight, this vigil is a small first step in healing for our community. Tonight, we know that we have many more steps to go before we feel any type of closure from the pain that was wrought last night.
And nearly 50 people were injured in the attack, 18 of them children. Well, as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday, the nearly $2 trillion Buildback Better Act is heading to the Senate. Democrats say the House-passed social spending and climate change bill will create free pre-K, increase child care assistance, cut drug costs for seniors, and slow global warming. No Republicans voted for the bill. 1 Democrat voted no, and even some centrist Democrats worry the law will actually cost more than advertised. And with that, let's bring in Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections. Nathan, good to see you. Lot to talk about tonight. So the conservative estimates from the Congressional Budget Office say this plan will add hundreds of billions to the national debt. It's not paid for, as Democrats have said. Do you think it will pass the muster of moderate Democrats in the Senate, like Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin?
Well, I think, as I always start with a moment of skepticism when it comes to big pieces of legislation, although, we were skeptical as we talked about infrastructure for many, many, many weeks, and that finally got done. But I'll still start with skepticism on this particular bill. And when we're talking about, the spending or the overall cost in addition to the deficit, I think what's probably most important on the short term is do people feel it? Do people feel like this is helping their lives? And for independent voters, they want to know, that the country's heading in the right direction, or they're going to make a political electoral decision if things are headed in the wrong direction. Yeah.
Speaking of, people feeling at home, the White House today announced the U.S. will tap the federal oil reserve. Politically speaking, the president's polls are very low right now. Does this move gain the president any political points with the American people? Or, Nathan, is inflation right now just weighing too heavy?
Well, I wouldn't expect it to have an immediate impact on President Biden's job approval rating. I think we have to remember that every piece of news isn't going to face the same reaction, right? I mean, there are a group of Americans who are going to oppose what President Trump or what President Biden does on almost anything. But it comes back to the spending bill as well. For those people who are truly in the middle or independent or persuadable, they want to see these things impact their lives. And I think that they will view whether this is a good decision or a bad decision by President Biden based on whether it indeed causes gas prices to go down and help them in their daily life.
Yeah, we will see. Well, let's talk about Congress and, this hyper-polarized political scene that we're seeing in America right now. I know you watched the discussion surrounding the House censure of Congressman Paul Gosar over a retweeted video depicting him in a cartoon wielding a sword and killing Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Nathan, I know last time, I know you have some thoughts on this. You know, we see it on both sides, but it's really getting ugly.
Yeah, Jenna, I think what we've lost is we've lost how to disagree. You know, I don't think that everyone in the country needs to agree on everything. I think it's healthy that we have two parties and opposing views. But right now, it's not enough to disagree on policy, that people feel the need that they have to destroy people personally. It has to become a personal attack. And I think it gets to something even deeper, that we no longer view our political opponents as equals. And I think if we don't view someone as an equal, then it causes us to say things to that person or do things to that person that we wouldn't normally if we indeed, you know, believe that we were on equal ground or equal footing. And so I'm concerned. And you say, well, how do we change? And I don't think we can necessarily rely on Washington or politicians to change. I think it starts at an individual level. Just think about our own discussions in our own lives, whether we're treating people who look differently, believe differently than us, if we're really treating them with love and compassion.
Yeah, I love that. It starts at the individual level, how you treat the people around you, your family, your friends. You know, just a quick thought, one issue that's very divisive we're talking a lot about right now is abortion. It's going to be a big issue in December. Roe v. Wade could be overturned.
Yeah, I mean, this continues to be one of the hot button issues in this country. You know, most people have made up their mind about which side of the aisle they're on, but I think that this will just be another news event that brings it up into into the mainstream conversation, and it's going to be, I think, from an electoral perspective, it could be a turnout issue, and if it energizes, you know, either side disproportionately, that could give the other party an upper hand.
Yeah, oof, yeah, it fires up both sides. We've seen that in the past for sure. Nathan Gonzalez with Inside Elections. It's always great to see you. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Jenna. You too.
And coming up, a NASA spacecraft is about to smash into an asteroid's moon on purpose. What that means for Earth. Welcome back. A test that could someday avert the apocalypse. The first mission to defend Earth from asteroids is set to launch late tonight. NASA's DART mission will intentionally crash a spacecraft into an asteroid's moon. The first ever mission will test how to redirect an asteroid to knock it out of orbit. The double asteroid redirection test heading towards the asteroids Didymos, I think I said that right, will collide with its small moon called Dimorphos in a mission that will take about 12 months. And here with us now is NASA's Thomas Wagner, a program scientist at the Planetary Sciences Division at NASA headquarters. Tom, great to have you. What an interesting story. It kind of sounds like something out of a plot of a science fiction movie. Explain to us a little bit more about what's going to happen.
I want you to picture driving your car down the road at 15,000 miles an hour and then pulling into a parking space without ever slowing down. And that's what this mission is going to do to a small asteroid, actually a moonlet going around an asteroid, to test ways that we could redirect an asteroid should there ever be one that's coming towards the Earth that we identify as hazardous.
Wow. So, you know, worst case scenario, right now this asteroid poses no threat to the Earth. But could we make a mistake and cause this asteroid to head towards Earth?
You know, it's one of the #1 things that we took into account in planning. First of all, this system, it's like 7 million miles away from Earth, and it doesn't really come into an Earth-crossing orbit. It actually has its own orbit around the sun. And also, too, what we're doing is we're hitting a moonlet orbiting around the larger asteroid, and we're going to change that moonlet's orbit. We're not going to change the system's orbit that much, and so we're not worried that there's any impact to Earth. But what's important is this, right? The moonlet that we're going to hit is about 150 feet wide, and that's about the size at which asteroids we think become threatening to the Earth. And those are the things that we're really trying to figure out. How do we mitigate if we identify one of those that's coming towards Earth?
Yeah. How accurately have we mapped asteroids and other objects in space? Are we pretty confident No known asteroid poses an impact threat to Earth right now?
So NASA actually runs what's called the Planetary Defense Coordination Office, where it works with other agencies to identify hazards and then figure out ways to deal with them. Right now, there is nothing that we are specifically worried about as a threat, but they are hard to see, and we're working on mapping them all the time. We're even launching another space telescope in the next few years to identify even more of them. So we remain ever vigilant, but nothing to worry about right this minute.
All right, Thomas Wagner with NASA. So neat. Good luck tonight. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, and when we come back, a teacher's victory. Why this educator almost lost his job after refusing to call students by their preferred pronouns. Tonight, victory for a Virginia school teacher. Citing his Christian faith, Tanner Cross was suspended recently after telling the school board he would not refer to his students by their preferred pronouns. But in a settlement reached last week, the board agreed to clear his record and will cover thousands of dollars in his legal fees. CBN's Tara Mergener spoke with Tanner and his attorney.
What a relief it must be to have at least that first case over with. What does it mean to you in terms of the legality of it now?
Yeah, listen, this is a huge victory for teachers. I was granted a permanent injunction, which means it's a huge victory for me and other teachers as well. I'll get to that, but it's a huge victory for me because Loudoun County Public Schools could no longer punish me for my speech that I made back in May. And that should tell teachers in our community and maybe in the country that, hey, you know, if you want to go advocate for your students at a school board meeting and you think that harmful ideologies may be coming in through your school board or being implemented into your lessons, to, you know, go voice your opinion and use your freedom of speech and freedom of religion.
Yeah. Do you feel like Loudoun County Public Schools was trying to make an example of you because they fought so hard to get to this point where there's actually a settlement?
You know, I think so. I think they were trying to make an example out of me. I mean, that's usually kind of how things are done. And, you know, especially when you're speaking about the truth. We're just so glad with the local court here and the Constitution just being upheld. You know, like, again, like I'll reiterate, we have a freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and we're just so happy with this huge victory for teachers.
I imagine you're hearing from parents and have been hearing from parents who are concerned all across the country. I'm guessing you're pretty surprised you've been put in this position, but what on the grander scale, what kind of difference do you think you've made here by sticking to your guns and seeing at least this first case through so far?
Yeah, I just think, you know, we have just kind of proven through the court system, you know, that teachers have First Amendment rights and they shouldn't be punished for them for going to a school board meeting, a public forum where we're asked to come speak. And I think has given this community a lot of confidence. And like I think I've said before, I hope that this empowers teachers and it gives them the confidence to go advocate for their students against harmful ideologies that will force teachers to call, you know, boys girls and girls boys and say pronouns that don't biologically align with one sex.
Yeah, and Tyson, legally, you know, for legal precedent, how much did the win of this case mean in the grander scheme of things, do you think?
Well, I think it means a lot. You know, we didn't necessarily plow any new legal ground because these rights have been enshrined in the Virginia Constitution for a long time. But what we're seeing is that there is a new movement to where people are being told that there's certain ideologies that you cannot question. You can't question this new transgender ideology. That's what we're being told. And so what I think this case shows is that the Constitution doesn't have some carve out for certain ideologies or some carve out for certain viewpoints that people don't like. No, this covers everything.
Your faith is important to you. It's the reason you stood up. Has your faith changed at all? Has it grown? And what role has it played in helping you get through what has got to have been a very challenging time for you and your family?
Yeah, like you said, Tara, my faith made me go to that school board meeting, and it's been a ride, and I had a friend ask me, Tara, like 3 days after, he asked me, "What did you learn from this?" A brother in Christ, and I said, "I learned to trust God more." So my faith grew, and it's just growing more and more as we go. And He's granting us with what we believe, He's granted us victories because of our obedience to Him. So.
And that was Tara Merchner reporting. Coming up, a second shot at stardom, and this contestant is using his voice to give glory to God.
I am Regent's first ROTC graduate student.
And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away, and all the overwhelming.
And finally tonight, a year of second chances. That is how former worship leader Jeremy Rosado described the past year. A few months after recovering from COVID-19, the former American Idol contestant is getting another shot on stage. Rosado performed a worship song, as you just heard, called Reckless Love on Monday's episode of NBC's The Voice. And Rosado's coach, Kelly Clarkson, applauding him at the end, saying that he is doing what he loves. After the show, Rosado says he plans to stick with Christian music. And that is going to do it for Faith Nation tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a great evening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.